You need to be stressed more. Allow me to explain. Many people love to avoid stress. They avoid stress through smoking. They avoid stress through sex. They avoid stress through chasing after material things. They avoid stress through drinking and alcoholism. And I'd actually argue that it's not wrong to feel stress. Let me tell you something. The times in which I grew the most was when I was this close to breaking point, but I still decided to break through. At 21 years old, when I literally had no more than $10 or $15,000 in the bank, I started getting into the NFT game. And I was working corporate in tech sales, and I also was trying to regrow my agency after the COVID, the cough. And I had 1 or 2 clients, and I was maybe making an extra $1,000 a month with my agency after nearly being featured in the paper a year later, because we were about to hit our first 10K month when I was 20 years old. So I was about to experience my first high, and I was growing rapidly, got featured in the paper, COVID happened, started all over again, no worries. So what I did was I decided at one point, I'm gonna quit my job. Even though my agency is making next to no money, and my side of the rent was about $900 a month, which now is that doesn't even cover anywhere near the rent I pay now. But even though the rent was $900 a month, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the leap, I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna figure it out. I got it under control. So what happens is I decide to go on a detox to tell my roommate, hey, listen, let's just give him a fake name. James, for 3 months, I'm not listening to music. I'm not gonna be hanging out with girls. I'm not gonna go to the club. I'm just gonna be lock in, right? Grind. So we do that. And I go on a 90-day detox. And many of you guys that have watched me for years have seen me talk about detoxes multiple times in the past couple of years. I go on this detox and I start working like ridiculously hard, to the point where I was not healthy. I was still playing basketball for Melbourne University, and I was trying to grow this business. So it comes to a point where instead of me having to pull 6 or 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep at night, I start napping in between days. And I'm gonna be very clear to everyone watching this disclaimer. Don't do this, you will literally mess up your health. I literally nearly ended up hospitalized. Do not do this, okay? And you have to learn through these mistakes, especially in your younger 20s, so you can find out ways to better push forward as you get older. And nonetheless, I end up getting very sick, and I realized that I gotta go harder. That's what Dan Pena was saying, that's what Gary Vee was saying. I was like, I just need to work harder. So instead of me recouping on sleep, I'm like, the answer was working harder. So I would send demos at 2 and 3 a.m. I would go to the gym at 4 a.m. in Docklands back in the day when I was living on Latrobe Street. And then I'd wake up at 7 a.m. after a 2-hour nap, cold calling. And I was really not good at cold calling at that point in time, which is a different conversation, because I'm gonna make a video about why you should keep working corporate until your business is stable. I digress. After the 3-month detox, I end up getting so sick that my body temperature reaches 39 to 41 degrees. Now, not to be grim, but for a few of you that are science geeks, and I learned this by nearly experiencing it, your body can only handle so much heat. Once you cross around 42 to 43 degrees, you can literally end up nearly dying, right? So I just off the hustle porn from the internet, start teetering with that level of dysfunction. And it comes to the point where I'm throwing up 8 to 10 times a day for a few days in a row at 21 years old. My parents are obviously stressed out of their minds, and I come and crash at their house for a few days. And I'm like, well, the detox is over. And I ended up going back to work. Now, I could have looked back on this and been like, I was stressed. That was such a bad thing. I was nearly hospitalized. But what that happened and what that taught me was, okay, working hard is really awesome, but same as good sleep. Go figure. Same as pacing yourself. Go figure. Same as making sure that you're doing task-based work instead of just focusing on the amount of hours that you can complete. Go figure, right? So being stressed in and of itself isn't a bad thing, comma, if you learn from being stressed. A lot of people let stress run them. Did you know that when you're stressed, your IQ decreases by 50%? So let's just say that you have an average IQ of 100. If you're operating out of stress, out of all the time, high levels of cortisol and anxiety, you're dropping to the IQ of a dog. The average, in fact, that's a high IQ dog at that. So in order for you to utilize stress as an advantage and as a catalyst for growth, you need to create an intellectual relationship with stress. Last week, my agency literally spent on staff 20 grand on staff fees. Mind you, as I said, at least right now, this month isn't over, but we're not even officially a 6-figure a month agency yet. So for me, in an industry that's supposed to be highly profitable, to purposely spend $20,000 for what would seem to the population for nearly no reason is me saying, I literally want my business bank account to be nearly at like zero. So by next week, I have to find extra food to feed my closers. So now we have to make an extra 20 or 30K this month. Now, some of you guys might say, well, Dami, what if you get sick again? What if you throw up again? What happens is once you overcome and you create that bandwidth and you intellectualize your relationship with stress, it now becomes a game. And gamification is what some of the richest people in the world do. Elon Musk, one of the richest, if not the richest person in the world, he literally looks at the world like a video game. Bro's trying to get things up in space. You're not a corporate geek trying to get things up in space. You're looking at the world like GTA, like Land, Andrew Tate, all these big names that you hate or dislike or like or whatever. These people look at the world like a game. That is someone that is intellectualized stress instead of letting stress run them. Now, you might be thinking, who's this 25-year-old that's speaking so confidently about this topic? Well, if you look at the description, I have over 100 free videos in Skool talking about sales, mindset, NLP, hiring, firing, delegation, Facebook ads, social media, and even interviews with people like Ty Lopez that have done over $700 million in a year. If you want to watch those videos and learn from other 7, multi-6, and 8-figure entrepreneurs that I've interviewed in the last 2 to 3 years, then click the link below. And if you want to work with us one-on-one, then you can fill out the mega community consulting link and my team will reach out to you to see if you're a good fit.